All right. So my name's Evan, and this is the things that I've learned in the past 7 years. And I'm gonna go on this long tangent every time, just kind of focusing on one thing that I've learned each time to help you understand the process of a 20-year-old in LA, or just a 20-year-old in general, trying to find their way through entrepreneurship, whether that's being a doctor, real estate, a musician, whatever, path you're taking as a 20-year-old. I think you go through these steps of learning about life and your soul, really, like how it moves and how it changes. And so the first segment of this series is going to be on the power of adaptation. And adapting to change it provides a space for more change. So you could be scared of it. You could be scared of adaptation and not wanting to adapt because maybe that change that happened in your life was too much. I'm thinking about, when I was in college, and I went to college for sound engineering, and I was making this album with 4 dudes. It was beautiful. We spent about a year and a half putting this thing together, and in total, and we were pretty much ready to release it. And right at the end, it just turned sour, and or not the end. It could have been the beginning of the next chapter in life, or the next stage of that album. But basically, the change that happened affected me so deep that it took me a year to kind of pull myself out of it. And over the course of a year, you start to what is that word? Compartmentalize. You start to just take things as they are in little sections of how it happened. And the way I adapted to it is just kind of accepting. And once I accepted it, that's when I was able to change my way of treating people in a professional environment and communicating with people in a professional environment. That situation taught me a lot about myself and how I react and how I move. So the change was really an eye-opening experience, and it usually is. If you don't change over the course of a year, then what the hell are you doing? I think Bradley Cooper, the guy that was in Hangover, the dude with long hair. He said that. He said, when you're in a relationship, I hope that you change over the course of a year. And if you don't, then man, what are you doing? And I resonated with that, because I feel like my life is constantly changing, but it doesn't change for like 6 months to a year. And now that I'm 28, I want this phase of life. And I say that because every 7 years, you're down to the molecular level a different person. I'll probably say that like 12 times every episode, but I truly believe that this phase, I will be more adaptable, and change will come more often because I have this space for it. When you adapt to change, you give change a space to come into your life, an opportunity to unfold. And what I mean by that is the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to lose and to find clarity, whether that's selling a house, buying a house, selling a car, losing a friend, buying a car, getting a job that you want, a dream job that you want. Whatever that win or loss is will bring opportunity to grow. And that is the change. And you being the growth subject, like the thing that's growing, if you don't adapt to how things are changing and moving in your life, then there won't be more change that comes. You'll be in that space, and the change that is trying to enter your life is just patiently waiting at your front door. God is literally looking at you like, so are we going to do this next step, or are we just going to chill here? And that's no problem either. Like I said, it takes time. It took me a year to get over or accept what happened between me and those guys. And now I could look back and say, man, that was a beautiful experience. I got to learn A, B, and C, A through Z about myself, A through Z about the process of creating something with people, and how to be better next time in that space. So there's kind of like this balance to change and adaptation. You can't have one without the other. And if you want to go farther than anybody has in your generation or your family, your friends, it's survival of the fittest. You have to be able to adapt quicker and faster and better than the next person, because the next person might be that person that's adapting faster than you are. And there's no race. I think most of the time I'm trying to adapt and make shifts in my life. At least during my early 20s, it was like monumental shifts needed to happen. I needed to be the person that everyone needed in the room. I needed to be the one that's making the most money and making the most connections, because I wanted to be that ahead. But it's not a race. I'm sitting here looking back at the last 7 years of my life, from 21 to 28, and I can tell you that it's there's no need to speed things up. Why rush it? You can enjoy the process and be more in it than anybody. How about that? How about enjoying the process so much that you're more in the moment than anybody in your family, anybody in your friend group, anybody on your path? You're more in the moment than anyone. I think that is far more fulfilling and conducive for growth in your soul than being ahead in money and connections and materialistic things like having a car or a house or $1 million in the bank. So I think, the things that I wrote down before starting this episode are kind of pulling me away from what I'm talking about. And I truly feel a type of way about being ahead and being ahead financially and, maybe environmentally, financially, or Did I just say that? Yeah. Financially, environmentally, socially, physically, mentally. Um, Sorry, there was a siren. I got ADHD, I think. Um, Even if you're ahead in all of those sectors of life, if you're not enjoying the process of it, I think your soul is limited to the amount of growth that happens within those moments of getting ahead financially and getting ahead environmentally, physically, mentally, socially. If you just get ahead and you're ahead of the pack but didn't feel the process of getting ahead, then there's no growth within. There's only growth externally. And that's what I wrote down that kind of pulled me away. That is, I think, like I'm bridging the gap without looking at my notebook. But it's fascinating to me, at least, when you look at the physical. Like, you look at your hand and you see your hand, right? You see the skin, you see the wrinkles, you see hair. But beneath that, in the 5D and the 6D world, you have cells, you have atoms, you have molecules, and beneath the atoms is vibration, like a frequency. They're sound waves, basically, that come from the universe to our galaxy to the planet to us down to the molecular level and beneath. So if everything is vibration, and that's not just to us, it's like this table, this couch, the TV, the walls of this house, the curtains, everything. So if everything is energy, everything's always moving. And if we're not moving, then we're not changing. And when you kind of relate it to our genetic makeup and like who we are as a species, our cells are always changing. So if our cells aren't changing, then we're dying. And that's why, you know, there's metaphors like, if you stop moving, if you stop moving, you die. You're like a shark. If you're not learning, then you're not growing. There's that balance that I mentioned before, is that if you're not adapting to change, then you're not growing, you're not expanding your reality. You're comfortable in where you're at, which again is okay. It's okay to be in one spot, because it takes time to build that courage and build your sense of adapting. But I learned a really, really tough lesson in the past couple months about decision making. And you always need to be moving towards an answer in a decision, whether that's an inch, a centimeter, half a step, a whole step, a day, whatever movement you could make towards an answer, you got to make it. And that's like an equation, right? You're just writing it out. You're not finding the answer every time you add something to the equation, but you're giving yourself something to look at when you're finding the answer. So it takes time, and it's not going to be in a day. I mean, it might be in a day, who knows? But give it that time that the answer requires, so that your equation is factoring in every single cog, every single number and factor of the situation in there so that you could really define what that answer is to you. I believe that our souls are put here to find that answer. We're not on this planet to just buy a house, buy a car, to buy an island, to use money in that way. We're not here for that. That was made centuries ago to put us all in this rat race of status and social presence. I think our purpose here is to, at least my purpose. There's 8 billion people in this world. I can't speak for everybody, but my purpose, and I hope that I attract the people that align with this, because the way I grow is through understanding myself deeper, on a much deeper level than how I understood myself a year ago, or 5 years ago, or 7 years ago. When I was 21, I was definitely not thinking that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. Bartending, serving, creating a social presence, investing, exercising every day, filling people with love, and not hurting myself. When I was 21, I took a lot of initiative to sabotage my future, by not thinking about it and not going in the direction of growth. I was just stagnant. I was comfortable with having fun in that moment. And it's important to do that, because it drove me, it took me probably 4 years of doing that to realize, oh shit, I don't want that to continue, because I won't be able to reach the goals of finding peace. I'm not trying to find the amount of money it takes to buy my dream car. I'm trying to find the amount of foundation and consistency that it takes to find peace, and to not be reactive, and to be able to connect people to this energy that I have inside, that sometimes only comes out when there's really good people around me. So, going that far to say that, I'm here to show people that, finding peace and finding that connectivity, that synergy brings you those materials, is so far-fetched, because I don't believe that. I believe that it's a part of what happens when you follow the path of God. When God gives you a purpose to connect with people, or to save people's lives, or to build homes, and you follow that, he rewards you with physical love, however that looks. And being in the later stage of that third phase of my life, it was truly the people, the experiences, the places I worked, the places I lived, the time that I had to myself was probably the most rewarding from the world, from my life. Like, it wasn't anybody giving me anything. It was God giving me something that that I needed, but I didn't know I needed. I didn't know I needed a new car that didn't have problems, because before that I was fixing my cars and spending thousands to just get it to run. I didn't know I needed my own space, a one bedroom that was very nice and doable for one person, until I lived there and was alone and with my thoughts and saw my routines and the things that I was doing, and it showed me that, man, I needed to see those things about me that I couldn't see because I was always living with somebody. I was always being supported by um or maybe not supported, but I was able to talk to people in the middle of my day that would distract me from looking at what I was doing. When you're alone, sheesh, when you're alone, you have a lot of time to list out the things that you're doing right and wrong. Um, and there's no right or wrong in the world. It's more of just right or wrong for yourself. And I was definitely doing a lot of things wrong for myself. So I was able to see that really easily when I was living alone, even though I probably did some things that were not great for um for my body and for the people around me, but I needed to do those things so that I can be where I am today. And where I am today is 28, doing all the things I listed off. Not going to say them again because that's not your business, it's my business. You could go back in time to in the video to, see what I said, but now I'm here doing all those things, but I wouldn't be doing them if I was still living with people, still going out, still partying, still spending money at places that I didn't even care about. When I learned to adapt to the change of a friend group, so I lived in Burbank and now I'm living in the South Bay. I lived in Burbank for 4 years, and when I moved down to the South Bay, there was a lot of friends and a lot of daily habits that I had up in Burbank, and night evening habits that changed instantly because I was around in the South Bay. It's just a different vibe. Like, I was around people that aren't, everything on the beach closes at 10. So, I mean, you have that one or two spots that are open until like 12 or 1, but the energy at night was a lot more dim. Whereas in Burbank, it was super bright. So even at night, I had the brightest lights out and I was able to stay out until 5 a.m. and everyone was up. Whereas when I came here, everything was a little chiller at night. Everyone's getting cozy, drinking their wine. It's cold outside. Whereas in Burbank, it was still hot at 9 p.m. So the energy shift was huge. And I was able to change the amount of time I was spending out at night by changing my environment. And once I moved into a one bedroom, ooh, man, I wasn't going out at night. I was waking up early. I had the gym right next to where I lived. It was 5 minutes walking. I had my own space. I kept it really clean. There were so many things about living here rather than Burbank that kept me out of the habits that were hurting myself. And I was doing all the things under the sun, smoking weed, doing drugs, drinking. I DJ'd. So it was, a part of me that was just out. I was out at night. And once I stopped doing that, I quickly adapted to the change of energy. and more change came. I got this job that I was bartending and serving, but it was one of the only places that were open until 12. So I was there every night until like 1 or 1:30. But by that time, I had already been like, okay, I'm gonna go home. After work, 8-hour, 9-hour shift, I'm gonna go home. Um, and and I think that was the sign to me that, okay, I'm not the same anymore. I'm not doing the same things. I'm not trying to actively step back into those habits. And that's a part of adapting that I haven't really touched on, is accepting that you've adapted. Like there's a relapse. There's a chance to relapse, and that's okay. But once you've accepted that you've changed, that the changes came into your life, you have to keep moving forward. Don't look in the rear view, always look forward. When change happens, you have the rights and the wrongs in your life, and both are playing this balance beam game. And when you get rid of a wrong, one of those rights turn into a wrong, and you have to create another right to keep that balance. So for example, say you meet somebody and you meet somebody out at the bar, you've been going out every night, and that person's like, oh yeah, I'm just here, on a whim, but dude, we should totally hang out. Turns out dude is, or girl is, like a representative for the Win in Vegas. You go to Vegas once with them, and then they're like, oh, you should come out next month. I do this every month. Now, instead of spending money out every night, you're saving money. So you're not going out as often. You're saving money for that once a month trip to Vegas. Then that right of like saving money and going to that one trip a month to Vegas interchanges with the wrong, right? So you're like, well, I'm saving up all this money, and I'm watching it get thrown at the wind every month. Now it's turning into a wrong because I want to change it. So now I'm going to go every 3 months and use that money that I save up to invest it into something. So it's always changing. And if you don't accept like, oh, okay, I don't like seeing that money kind of just get thrown at the wind. And if you don't accept that you've been doing it for 6 months, you've been going to Vegas once every month. If you don't accept it, then you'll just spend it back at whatever bar you were going to before those 6 months. The bartender's like, hey, where you been? Oh, I've been just, grinding and going to Vegas. Oh, that's cool. What's that story like? These shifts people notice, and you have to notice when you've shifted something. That conversation with the bartender should be a realization for you to be like, wow, yeah, I haven't been here in 6 months. You know what? See you in another 6 months, Dave. We'll catch up again. And Dave might see you rolling up in a Rolls Royce next time because you've saved that money, you invested, you caught a pop in the stock market or whatever, and now you're banging. Now you're worth $1 million. I think that everyone should be trying to feel like $1 million, whether you're rolling up in a Rolls Royce or a Civic Si. However you want to feel like $1 million, you should strive for that. Don't settle. Don't be comfortable. If you're 21, take your time. Do what you need to do. No one needs to have it figured out by 30. No one needs to have it figured out by 25. God. You can have it figured out mid-30s and still live a beautiful long life. But if you're thinking that by 25 or 30 you're going to have it all set out and done, you're wrong. You might have a Lamborghini and a house in Florida by 30 if you have that mindset, but mentally and physically you might not have it figured out, and your 30s you're going to have to put that time away for that. And instead of putting that time towards a business when you're mature and ready for it, you'll miss that window. You'll miss that window of opportunity in your 30s that is destined for growth. Whereas in your 20s, your opportunity for growth is within you first, not your external reality. Your physical world is untouched. Like God's not even focused on that. God's focused on building you up and making you strong for the journey ahead. You're his soldier. He's got to train you before you could get into the mud, into the dirt. And the mud and the dirt really comes in your 30s. And I'm not even there yet. I'm 2 years out. But at least I have this mindset of like, from 21 to 28, I've got my body right, mentally and physically. I've got my environment right. I know where I'm supposed to be for my energy. My social life is right. I don't hang out with people that are dimming my light and dimming my energy. Financially, I'm financially literate. I know exactly what I need to be doing financially to keep myself up. I've taken the time and the steps in my 20s to dial those things in. And now in my 30s, or at least right now, I'm able to unfold all of the things that I've pent up, all the ideas and goals that I've put into a journal or thought about for years, and execute. Whereas in my 20s, and like I said before, like everyone's journey looks different. But in my 20s, in my early 20s, I was definitely not ready for something like that. So I guess what I've been trying to just nail into the headboard is adapting is powerful because it offers space for more change, which means more opportunities to grow. And you can either shy away from it, you can push it off for next weekend or next month, next Christmas, but it's always going to be at your front door. The second you open that door to start change, to start adapting to change, that change is right there. It hasn't left. God's setting it right in front of the door like a sign, like a road-blocked sign on the freeway that you see every day, and you're like, oh man, I can't wait until that road is open so I could take that road again. God is waiting for you to go and do something about it. So I digress. We've gone 30 minutes about adapting to change and flowing through life. And I know you're going to do it. You know you're going to do it. But I want to share my journey through adapting to the change in my life. So I hope you enjoyed everything that I've talked about in the last 30 minutes. Take some time to journal these thoughts and the ideas that I've shared with you, and I hope the next time you're able to lock in again and hear my perspective as a young 28-year-old trying to make it out here. And yeah, share this podcast with somebody, because it's only going to get bigger. This is the first of many, and I'm excited for it. Take care.